Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Again, this is my second episode of Reprogramming, where we're gonna basically reprogram an algorithm or set of rules that we're gonna use when we are in public or out of our house and end up in a situation that we need to talk. Okay, so this is a response to the other video I made called Deprogramming Talking Too Much, where we investigated a real life scenario of somebody who just talked too much. Okay, and the consequences of embarrassment that he had to face later on. And today I'm here to help you, so that you don't end up making the same mistake as that guy. Okay, so let's jump in. It might seem obvious, but the number one rule of how to talk in public starts back to religion. Okay, and that would be don't backbite. Okay, it's so easy because when you're talking with somebody, especially like minded, then you're probably gonna like hate on the same person, and it's so fun to just gang up on people, right? Anyways, that's the number one biggest flaw you could ever make. And in fact, that's what the example I gave in my deprogramming talking too much video gave. The person just went too far because when you start talking bad about someone and then the person next to you responds positively or like gives an encouraging look, then you feel like going more because we end up thinking of these funny slogans that we could just keep in our mind and say them, and it looks cool coming from us, right? So don't backbite, because if you end up saying something that's inaccurate and somebody ends up catching you on it and then you end up having to reverse or backtrack what you just said, that's hurting with your ego. That's hurting your ego. That's hurting your self esteem. That's making you feel like, wow, what did I just do? Okay. So essentially, don't do something regretful, aka backbiting, because even if somebody doesn't catch you on a on a slander that you did, then the angels on your left and right side are. Okay, so is it worth either number one, getting embarrassment in this life, or number two, after you die, being held accountable for it by having to touch a flame or even be thrown in a flame? Okay, hell is serious, guys. Don't play around with it, it's not worth it. My second point is make your words precious by knowing what you're going to say. In a lot of other success channels, they put the example of a buzzing table of friends, okay? Actually, not friends, just like business partners, okay? And they're all sitting and chattering, and then there's this one person sitting silently at the end of the table. And after 30 minutes of staying quiet and listening, only listening, then they say something and everyone stops because what they've said is something so just mind blowing. Okay? And it's very simple. The way to say mind blowing things is by listening more than you talk. Okay? If somebody's chattering 24/7, they might have, let's say, 10 units of value in what they say. Okay? Because when you're chattering so much, you only really think out 1% of the things you're going to say. If we put this versus somebody who barely chatters and still has those 10 units of value and they expend it in only one sentence, that person's words become a lot more valuable and a lot more worth it to listen to. Okay, so know what you're going to say before you come. Okay, and that's actually going to keep you from doing what I call crowd pleasing, where you end up talking so much because you saw some positive encouragement on the other side, like of the crowd that you're talking to or the person you're talking to. Okay, if you come in knowing that you're going to say, I think the principal is unfair because he only lets, I don't know, people he likes graduate. Okay? Then you're going to stick to your topic. But if you don't know what you're saying before you come into a conversation, then you're going to end up going in and being like, "Yeah, I think the principal's unfair." And if you're talking to a person who thinks he's unfair because he made the prices of pizza too high, then you're going to end up saying way more than you thought you were going to say, and then you're going to want to backtrack. And as I said before, backtracking is the most embarrassing thing you can ever do in life. Okay? Don't do something that's not worth it that you end up having to backtrack in the end. Okay? So know what you're going to say before. That's actually going to help you because when you're in public, your mind kind of shuts off if you see um, the crowd pleasing phenomena happening, where people are like kind of giving you encouraging smiles and saying, "Yeah, that's right, uh huh." Okay, so you're gonna end up crowd pleasing, and that's going to end up hurting your future, because if someone holds you accountable here, then embarrassment, and in the afterlife, if they hold you accountable for something you slandered or said, then it's fire. And if I had to pick, I'd pick none of the above. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is, if you really have to criticize somebody, um, if you really have to criticize somebody in public, then say it without saying it. So in the example I gave in my deprogramming video, then I talked about how there was like two students of knowledge kind of fighting with each other, and the first one said that, oh yeah, he's just like trying to dismember our whole system of scholars and whatever. Okay, and apparently that was severely inaccurate, and he had to take account for it. Okay, a lot of people had a problem with what the accused one was doing, and how come only that guy got held accountable? It's because he said it directly. Okay, so in the example I gave before, where only the people that the principal likes get to graduate, then don't say directly like, I don't like how principal yada 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 is doing yada yada yada. Say, I think it's unfair when people do yada yada yada. See, I just criticized the principal there without actually like getting myself in trouble. Okay, that's just a smart hack if you really have something to say about somebody else. um, the next thing I wanted to say is, have a jumble of facts and opinions. Okay, so it's good to have opinions. Okay, that makes you what you are. It's good to have opinions. Like, that's it. Okay, but it's not good to have opinions when they're just based on sheer emotion. Okay, so as we keep using the principal example, then, you know, I don't think the principal is fair, because that because should not be another opinion, like, because I think that it should be this way. No. Say, I don't think the principal is fair. That was your opinion. Now give a fact. Don't just do opinion, opinion, opinion all the way, because then it just becomes a personal matter and people are just going to call you over emotional. Yeah. Last point I'm going to say before my amazing ginormous tip that I have is, use SIR. SIR is CER. You learn it in school. It means it stands for claim, evidence, reasoning. Okay, every claim comes with evidence, and every piece of evidence comes with a piece of reasoning, and that's exactly how anything you say should be. Because anything we say is a claim. Okay, it's an arguable thing that we use to prove our opinions, and that's a great resource. Okay, use that template, because it will keep you from being fired at, or slandered. Like, it just helps you. It's a perfect template to make sure that you don't end up going off track. Okay, and my last ginormous tip for the day is read Quran. Okay, or scripture, whatever you want to call it. Okay, the Quran is a book that is meant to be recited. Okay, listening to it is awesome, but reciting it yourself is actually going to purify what you say. Okay, so I actually experienced this in Ramadan. As I said before, I'm a talkative person, so I know how it feels. Okay, in Ramadan, I ended up having to recite a whole juz out loud, and it literally, my entire day I spent without saying nonsense and pure lahu, or just, material related things and things that aren't worth saying. I only spoke what was worth my while. Okay, why? Because the Quran purifies what you say, and there's a logical sense to it too. My vocal cords were like totally exhausted, so I was like, is it worth really using energy to say this?